Let me just start by saying this. I am not a morning person. You know those people who wake up at a.m. with perfect hair, smile at the sun like it's a friend, and somehow have the energy to make oatmeal and stretch while listening to motivational podcasts? Yeah, I am the opposite of that. When my alarm went off that morning, it felt like a direct personal attack. It was screaming and not in a helpful rise and shine way. No, it sounded like a dying robot trying to start a chainsaw. I slapped it, missed, slapped again, still missed. On the third try, I punched myself in the face. That's how the day started. I rolled out of bed like a tranquilized walrus, stumbled into the bathroom with one eye open, grabbed the toothpaste, and brushed my teeth with sunscreen. Yup, actual sunscreen. I didn't realize until halfway through when I was like, why does this taste like regret in SPF 50? The mirror was foggy, but I could still see the face of a child who had made too many poor choices the night before. I'd been up until a.m. watching videos of cats knocking things over and speedrunning snack cakes. You know, the usual. I had about 3 brain cells functioning, and all of them were panicking. I threw on my clothes probably backwards, didn't check, grabbed my backpack, and ran out the door with a banana and zero dignity. The bus was already waiting, and I made it just in time, diving on like I was in an action movie. The driver gave me the same look he gives me every Monday, a mix of pity, confusion, and I should have retired last year. I sat in the back of the bus, the section reserved for the sleep-deprived and emotionally unstable. I tried to lean against the window for a nap, but the bus hit a pothole, and my head bounced off the glass like a malfunctioning bobblehead. At one point, I may have briefly fallen asleep with my eyes open, because when I woke up, I was halfway into a conversation with a kid I don't even know. Something about turtles and time travel. I nodded like I understood, but I was 98% sure I was dreaming with my eyes open. The moment we arrived at school, I knew I wasn't ready. The fluorescent lights attacked my eyes. The hallway smelled like wet sneakers and despair. My backpack felt like it was filled with bricks, even though I'm pretty sure all I had inside was a notebook and, for some reason, a fork. I was a zombie, a walking ghost, a human-shaped puddle of sleep deprivation. Then, it happened. I saw her standing near the whiteboard, holding a coffee mug that said "Number 1 Teacher," wearing a soft pastel cardigan, tall, kind smile, glasses slightly fogged from her drink. In my completely destroyed mental state, something inside me short-circuited, and I thought, oh, there's my mom. I walked up to her, calmly, lovingly, like this was a moment we had waited years for. I opened my arms. She smiled, probably expecting a good morning. Instead, I said, "Hi, Mom," and then I hugged her. Yes, I hugged my teacher, arms wrapped around her, head resting gently on her shoulder. Like a soldier returning home from war, the room went silent. You could hear a pencil drop. Somewhere, someone gasped. Someone else whispered, "New way." The sound of embarrassment echoed through time and space. The teacher, Miss Reynolds, slowly reached up and patted me on the back like I was a confused raccoon trying to borrow her groceries. She gently said, sweetie, I'm not your mom." My eyes snapped open. My soul left my body. This wasn't home. This wasn't my mom. This was 7th grade English. The moment hit me like a dodgeball to the face. My arms fell. I stepped back. Miss Reynolds was clearly trying not to laugh. The entire class was not trying. Laughter exploded. Some kids were doubled over. One kid actually fell off his chair. And me? I stood there, frozen, like a sad penguin that had just realized he was in the wrong movie. I whispered, "I'm so sorry," then sat down at my desk and tried to sink into the floor. I prayed for a fire drill, an earthquake, a sudden UFO abduction, anything to get me out of that room. But no, we had to start class. Like nothing had happened, but everything had happened. By lunch, it was everywhere. You'd think people would move on, but no. Middle schoolers are like emotional archaeologists. They will dig up your shame and put it on display. Kids passed me in the hallway and said things like, "Hey, mama's boy, did you bring snacks for your other mom? Should we start calling her Mrs. U?" One kid even offered me a pacifier. Another gave me a tiny World's Best Son certificate made of napkin paper. The meme started by 4th period. Somebody photoshopped my face onto a baby koala clinging to a tree. Caption: when the teacher's vibe is too motherly. The worst part, there were so many angles. Apparently, some people had their phones out early and captured the moment of the hug, zoomed in, slow motion, with romantic music added in one version. Romantic. I wanted to scream, and the nickname stuck. For weeks, people called me Mom Hug. Even the janitor. I tried to do damage control. T first. I denied it. I didn't say mom. I said ma'am. You misheard. But no one bought it. Then I tried to own it. Wore a shirt that said I might teach her platonically. Didn't help. Finally, I gave up and tried rebranding. I started walking the halls with fake confidence. Gave advice to other kids like a wise old man. You think your life's bad? I once hugged a teacher and called her mom in front of 30 people. You'll survive, but slowly. Something weird happened. People stopped making fun of me. A few even started sharing their own horror stories. One guy told me he once called the school nurse grandma. A girl said she accidentally followed her science teacher into the parking lot thinking it was her dad. Another guy confessed he hugged the vice principal from behind. She was not amused. Apparently, this kind of thing happens a lot more than you'd think. And yeah, it's embarrassing, but it's also kind of human. Ms. Reynolds never mentioned it again. She acted totally normal, which somehow made it even worse, like she was trying to protect my fragile soul from collapse. But at the end of the semester, she gave me a book as a gift. On the inside cover, she wrote, "To my favorite honorary son, don't ever lose your heart, even if it gets you into awkward hugs." Miss Reynolds, I almost cried. Almost. Instead, I just smiled and said, "Thanks, teach." Miss Reynolds. And yes, everyone still remembers the hug. But now, it's kind of a legend. Something people bring up not to tease, but to laugh with me. Because here's the truth, we've all done something cringy. We've all called someone the wrong name, walked into the wrong room, said love you to a stranger on the phone, waved back at someone who wasn't waving at us. It's part of being human. It's how we learn. It's how we grow. And now, it's a story I'll tell forever, with a smile, and maybe just a tiny bit of trauma. After the whole Hugpocalypse incident, you'd think I'd lay low for a while, hide in the shadows, blend in with the lockers, maybe fake mono and disappear for a semester. But no, life had other plans, because the very next day, Miss Reynolds called on me during class. She said, "Why don't you come up to the board and solve this one? Sweetie, sorry, your name here." Boom. Immediate laughter. I stood up slowly, like a soldier heading to battle. You could practically hear the dramatic violin music in the background. Someone whispered, "She called him sweetie again." The walk to the board felt like the world's slowest funeral march. Every step echoed. My sneakers squeaked like they were mocking me. I picked up the marker with trembling hands and stared at the problem. If Tommy has 3 apples and gives away 2, how many apples does he have left? I froze. Brain, it's 1. Say 1. Just say 1. Mouth. Banana. Laughter. Chaos. Someone threw an eraser at the ceiling. I corrected myself and wrote 1 on the board. But the damage was done. From that moment on, any mistake I made, no matter how small, was immediately tied to the hug. Trip in the hallway. Oops. Looking for your other mom? Drop my tray in the cafeteria. Don't worry, your teacher mom will clean it up. One time, I raised my hand to answer a question, and a kid leaned over and whispered, "What would mom say?" It got so intense that even teachers started playing along. Mr. Garcia from science gave me a permission slip and said, "Give this to your mother, Miss Reynolds." Then he winked. They were all in on it. At one point, I genuinely considered switching schools or joining a witness protection program. I pictured myself in a new town with a new name, a new haircut, maybe even a fake accent. Hello? Yes, I am not the boy who hugged his teacher. I am Pierre from France. But the truth was, you can't outrun cringe. You just have to ride it. So, one Friday when everyone was still calling me mommy's boy, I made a decision. I was gonna fight fire with fire. I stood up in the cafeteria and shouted yes. I called my teacher mom. Yes, I hugged her. Yes, I was tired, but at least I know how to show affection. You emotionally repressed gremlins. There was a pause. Then, clapping, actual applause. I did a slow, sarcastic bow, tripped on my backpack, fell onto someone's tray, and launched mashed potatoes across the room like a torpedo. My pizza. But still, applause. And that was the turning point. People started to chill about it. Not totally, but enough. They stopped bringing it up every 5 seconds. Started teasing me in a friendly way instead of an "I'm going to ruin your soul" way. Ms. Reynolds even gave me a gold star one day for answering a question right. And I said, "Thanks, Mom," on purpose. The class exploded in laughter. But I was the one who started it. I took back the power. Even Miss Reynolds cracked up and said, "You're grounded. Go to your desk." It became a bit a running joke, and somehow, that made it better. A few weeks later, we had a school talent show. I wasn't going to participate at first. I didn't want to be on stage in front of the people who had watched me emotionally implode like a piata of shame. But Miss Reynolds encouraged me. "You're funny," she said. "You should do stand-up." And I was like, "You think people want to hear about how I thought you were my mom and crushed your spine in a surprise hug?" She said, "Yes, especially that." So, I did it. I went on stage, holding a mic, sweating like a raccoon in a sauna. And I told the story, the whole thing, from brushing my teeth with sunscreen to whispering, "Hi, Mom," and nearly crying in public. I even brought props. A coffee mug that said "World's Best Mom," a tiny fake cardigan, a glue stick I labeled "Emotional Support Stick." People laughed. They laughed so hard, teachers, to .ms. Reynolds gave me a standing ovation and pretended to wipe a tear, mouthing, "That's my boy." It was glorious, and afterward, people came up to me and said things like, "Dude, I did that once too." I called my dentist dad. I walked into the wrong minivan and sat down before realizing it wasn't my family. Turns out, everybody's got a story. Some are worse, some are weirder, but we've all had a moment when our brain just did the equivalent of tripping over its own shoelace. So now, when I walk down the halls, people don't say "mom hug" to make fun of me. They say it like it's a nickname, like I survived something, like I'm a survivor of the Hall of Cringe, and honestly, I'm proud of that, because yeah, I messed up, big time, but I learned something, too. I learned that embarrassment doesn't last forever, that if you can laugh at yourself, nobody can use it against you. And that Miss Reynolds gives very comforting hugs. I still get called mom sometimes, especially when I do something dumb like forget my homework or ask what day it is on a test paper that has the date printed on it. But now, I just smile and say, "Don't worry. My mom says I'm doing great." Moral of the story: if you ever call your teacher mom, or your dentist dad, or your dog grandma, it's okay. We've all been there. Life's too short to hide from your cringiest moments. Laugh loud, hug with caution, and maybe label your actual mom just to be safe. After the talent show, things got weirdly good. I had become that guy, you know, the one people nod to in the hallway, like there goes the legend. The kid who hugged his teacher and survived. I was being high-fived by 8th graders. 8th graders. I never even made eye contact with them before. They always seemed like they were one bus stop away from becoming full-blown adults. One kid whispered, "Respect, man," and handed me a Capri Sun, like I was in the mafia. And then get this, the principal called me into her office, not to scold me. No. To congratulate me, she said, and I quote, "It takes courage to share your most embarrassing moment. Most of us would bury it deep inside and cry about it during jury duty. But you turned it into comedy." Then she gave me a school-branded pencil, which immediately snapped in half when I tried to put it in my pocket. But still, a pencil from the principal, that's basically a diploma in middle school currency. By this point, my confidence was way too high. Like, dangerously high. And as with all things in my life, the higher I rise, the funnier I fall. Because one morning, just when I thought the universe had moved on, the universe said, "Let's run it back." It started like before. I was half asleep, dragging myself into school, earbuds in, hoodie up, eating a cold waffle from my pocket like some kind of breakfast goblin. Then I heard someone behind me say, "Good morning, sweetie." And without looking, I turned around, gave them a sleepy hug, and said, "Morning, Mom." Only this time, it wasn't Miss Reynolds. It was Mr. Tobin, the 6'4" ex-Marine gym teacher. He just stood there, holding his coffee, frozen, and I was locked in a chest-level hug with a man whose biceps had biceps. He looked down at me. I looked up at him. We both knew something had gone horribly wrong. I slowly backed away, tried to unhug, tried to pretend this never happened, but oh, no. Mr. Tobin blinked once and said, "Son, I didn't know you felt that way." And then he winked. I nearly passed out. People had seen. The whispers began immediately. "He did it again. That's not even the same gender. This man is building a hug collection." I ran to class, slammed the door, hid behind my binder for 20 minutes. Later that day, Mr. Tobin passed me in the hallway, gave me a big thumbs up, and shouted, "Hey champ, say hi to your other mom for me." At this point, I had created a hug multiverse. The school started calling me Momster, like monster, but with mom. Someone made a bingo card of people I might accidentally hug next to the librarian, the nurse, the lunch lad-eyed janitor named Chuck, the school mascot. Friday. I was determined to reclaim my dignity. So, obviously, I did the dumbest thing possible. I made free hugs buttons. I passed them out. To everyone. I even gave one to the assistant principal. She did not laugh, but the students, oh, they loved it. I leaned into the joke so hard it wrapped back around and became cool. For one brief, shining moment, I was a walking paradox, the cringe king, who ruled with confidence. And that's when I learned something kind of profound. There are two kinds of people in life: people who get embarrassed and never recover, and people who get embarrassed, wear it like armor, and then sell t-shirts with it printed on the front. You already know which one I became. The next school assembly, I was asked to do the announcements. I opened with, "Hi, I'm not your mom, but I might accidentally hug you, so stay alert." Applause. Laughter. Even the janitor laughed. He rarely laughs. He once told a joke about duct tape and didn't smile. People still remember me for that year. Not because I was the smartest, or the best at sports, or the most fashionable. Let's be real, I wore the same hoodie 147 days in a row. But because I turned one mortifying moment into something joyful, and maybe just maybe gave everyone permission to laugh at their own awkward moments. So, what's the takeaway? You're going to mess up. You're going to say something weird. Do something clumsy. Maybe even call your teacher mom and hug her in front of 30 witnesses and a security camera. But that's okay, because that's what makes you human. Embarrassment doesn't kill you. It just gives you stories. Great stories. So laugh. Own it. Hug wisely. And please, double check before you embrace the gym teacher. So, after the whole Mr. Tobin incident, the school buzz died down a bit. People still called me Momster. Sure, one kid drew fan art of me in a superhero cape, hugging a very confused cafeteria worker. It was disturbingly good. I looked majestic, but I could feel the attention fading, which honestly was kind of sad. I'd gotten used to being the guy with the story, so I thought, let's go out with a bang. One last hurrah. One final scene to close the Cringe trilogy. And that's how I made the worst best decision of my entire academic career. I ran for student council president, not because I wanted power, not because I had policies, but because I had a slogan: vote for the kid who loves this school. Like a mother, I printed buttons, posters, stickers. One said, "A vote for me is a vote for hugs, honesty, and hot lunches." I gave speeches in the cafeteria. I high-fived kindergartners. I even hugged the school mascot in front of the whole gym. People were into it. We had debates, real ones, while other candidates said boring things like longer recess or healthier vending machines. I said, we need a school where nobody feels ashamed for saying something weird. A school where it's okay to trip over your own shoelace, or sneeze so hard you knock over a globe, or call your teacher mom and still be proud of who you are. Standing ovation. Even the teachers clapped. Miss Reynolds wiped a tear again. Mr. Tobin gave me a salute, and Chuck the janitor actually smiled. So did I win? No, I lost by 3 votes. Apparently the other kid promised to bring soda back into the vending machines and had a TikTok with 1 million views of him doing backflips in a Spider-Man costume. But that's okay, because what I gained was way better than a plastic council badge and the right to pick the Spirit Week theme. I gained a story, a ridiculous, glorious, zoom-filled, sound effect pack story that people will tell forever. I mean, really think about it. What started as one sleepy morning hug turned into a school-wide meme, a talent show momentum. Mr. Tobin Bear Hugo failed political campaign, a legacy so bizarre it might be carved into a locker somewhere. And to think, it all happened because I thought my teacher was my mom. So here's the final word, the grand finale, the cherry on top of this entire waffle of weird. We all mess up. We all say the wrong thing sometimes. We all trip, spill, call someone dad who is very much not our dad. And we all feel like the whole world saw it, but trust me, they move on. And you will too. And one day, you'll be able to tell the story. You'll make someone laugh. You'll help someone else feel normal. And maybe you'll inspire a few hugs along the way. Just aim carefully, so if this ever happens to you, don't panic, don't hide, just smile, shrug, and say, well, at least I didn't call the principal grandma. And if you do call the principal grandma, congratulations, you've just joined the club. We have cookies and awkward eye contact.